like my older son's basketball experience prompted me into this fascia. Did I share that story?
I don't think so.
I haven't heard it.
Okay. Well, this really was the paradigm shifter for me. This story, and it's an interesting story. So I have two sons. My one son. This was 5 years ago. I can't believe it. It's like 5 years. He's graduating high school this year, and he really decided basketball was going to be his sport, and he graduating from Don Bosco High School, and to play at that level, where this year on his team he had 4 kids, underclassmen, have D1 offers. That's the level we're at. His one of his teammates is Ron Harper, or was Ron Harper. Now we got his son Dylan. His father is a 5-time NBA champion. Ron is with Rutgers and put them on the map. So high-level basketball school. So he started getting serious about basketball. He's a shooter, and he made a pretty high-level 8th grade AAU team called the Players, and it's a Nike-sponsored team. It was a Nike-sponsored team. And we went to some tournaments, I mean, big-time tournaments in Atlanta, Indianapolis. And these AAU tournaments are like all paid for by Nike or Under Armour or whatnot. And, he was probably, one of the slower guys on the team. Thank God he can shoot. But he was in 8th grade, underdeveloped, whatever. But here's where the breakthrough came through. I went to these tournaments, right? And I don't know if any of you have experienced a high-level AAU tournament, basketball, for, 8th grade, 9th grade, 10th, and 11th. But it's the highest level high school athletes. And these tournaments that they set up have, like, believe it or not, like 50 courts. They'll set up 50 basketball courts in these big warehouses or arenas or whatnot. Literally 50. I'm not exaggerating. Sometimes there's 60 because I counted them. I was so amazed.
Mm-hmm.
So I went to this tournament, my first real high-level AAU tournament 5 years ago. And I've seen great athletes before, in our facilities, but I've seen them, I'm talking about naturally gifted, explosive, dynamic athletes. We'll see a couple out of every 100 kids that come in, But when I went to this tournament, I saw 500 insane athletes all in one building, 15-year-olds playing above the rim, dunking at will, gliding down the court like I've never seen anybody glide before, at that age. Or I should say, I've seen them, but not all 10 of them out there at the same time, all 15 years old. Like it was this paradigm shift. I'm looking at all this insane athleticism everywhere I look on 50 basketball courts. It was like a huge shift. And I noticed one thing in common with pretty much like 98% of them. None of them had a lot of muscle. I mean, like, there wasn't a lot of kids that were like beefed up at all, or like a lot of kids you would say did a lot of strength training. But their athleticism was insane, like insane. And I don't know, my belief is, your Division I college basketball players and your NBA players are by far the greatest athletes on the planet, bar none, not even a question. Where most of these guys, if they really put their mind to it, probably can make the NFL. If they learn those skills, they have the athleticism to play at the NFL, and that's why you see a lot of basketball players convert and be tight ends, like Tony Gonzalez, who was a basketball player. There's these basketball players to become insane offensive tackles, these big post-up players, so on and so forth. So this was a huge paradigm shift for me. And I said, what are these guys doing? So my son was only in 8th grade, and, he was competing, whatever. And so I started like asking some of these kids, some of these higher level kids that were like 16, 17 at the time, that, had a bunch of D1 offers to play at Florida, Kentucky, I said, what do you do? How do you work out? I'm going to have these strangers, what do you do for working out? And a lot of the answers were, I play a lot of basketball, man. I mean, that was basketball players aren't known to hitting the weight room and doing your traditional training. Like, they do it, but they mainly play basketball. So I said to myself, there's something different there's something going on inside the human body that's way different with these guys, and I'm on a quest to find out. And after doing more and more research, I realized that these athletes, when you look at the stress they're putting on their body, it's in multiple vectors, and it's submaximal. So every time they play basketball, it's a tremendous amount of change of direction. A lot of it is submaximal. Like on the court, there's only a certain amount of time where they're giving maximum effort, in going to the rim or defending the rim. So that's, when you look at a 32-minute game, high school game, that's probably under load, maybe 4 to 8 minutes under maximum load on a 32-minute, high school game. The rest of the time is some maximal loading. Again, just running, changing direction, but not maximal. When I say maximal, it's 100% effort. And again, that's usually going to the rim or defending the rim, or defending a shooter, like a shooter trying to get open and so on. And I looked at that and the types of stresses that are put on their body and their adaptation to that. So you're not going to build a lot of lean muscle tissue, doing that. I should say, you're not going to build a lot of mass, right? Playing basketball. So what's happening? And what I've concluded, and what my belief is after the research, and I looked into it, and I'll give you the research behind it. But what's really being developed with these guys is their connective tissue system, their tendons and their fascia. And that's what makes these guys so strong. It's funny. My son, he's going to go and play the Division III level at Salve Regina, a really great school in Newport, Rhode Island. He's excited to be playing college basketball, but he's got some buddies that are, pretty big time Division I players. And he kind of says, these guys, and he's worked really hard. I'm not a basketball guy. I don't know anything about it. Never had a lot of basketball athletes come through my program. So my son really has helped me. He's the reason why this whole fascia thing started, being at that tournament, quite frankly. We're working hard and we're doing things. He even says now, like going against these Division I kids that are bigger, my son's only 5'11", he's a shooter, but he says, when he's in the backyard with some of these guys, he says, Dad, they're so strong. Like they never lifted a weight in their life, but they're so strong defending the rim. When he tries to go to the rim against them, like moving them is hard, right? And when they come and go to the rim and they plow into him, he's got to really dig in. And he said, Dad, when I'm with them, man, I got to lock in. I just can't play at like 85% because I'm going to get barreled over. And these guys, one, have developed their connective tissue system. Two, they know how to create extreme stiffness in milliseconds of time, because their body becomes a beam of steel at over milliseconds, and then it relaxes, and then they move, and then when they make contact, their body becomes steel, a beam of steel, for a millisecond. And that ability to contract and really pulse, that's the key word, pulse, stiffness. The ability to pulse and create stiffness in milliseconds is the essence of athleticism and strength under the basket, around the puck in hockey, the point of contact in football, making a hit, the point of the golf club hitting the ball in that millisecond of time. That pulse of stiffness is the essence of athleticism. And that is facilitated with all the systems, with the fascia system playing a big part of that, because the fascia system has 10 times more of the proprioceptors than muscle. And the fascia also helps to provide stiffness and stability during these quote unquote pulses of activity. And now I can explain this, I think, fairly intelligently, and I can explain the science at a deep level. And guys, this is incredibly cutting edge, like what I'm sharing. I mean, this is stuff really not many people know. I would say, I think a couple percentage points of the entire performance training industry maybe understands these concepts, and how fascia relates to these milliseconds of stiffness that is the essence of athleticism. And this is to me, this has been proven by guys like Dr. Stuart McGill, who's had world-class athletes in his lab, where he's done EMG studies on exactly what I'm saying. And I validated this with the fascia research and kind of tied it all together. That's why Stuart McGill was happy to write the forward to my book, having a guy of that stature, write that. So, that tournament really started me to think, made me think there's something different going on, and then I realized that there are different types of athletes out there, meaning, the fascia driven, the connective tissue driven athlete, that homeostatic driver. For some athletes like Kevin Durant is connective tissue. That homeostatic driver is connective tissue. Where the homeostatic driver for, LeBron James isn't just connective. I should say isn't as much connective tissue driven. He's has more muscular. He's a more muscular driven athlete than Kevin Durant. Now, understand, all systems are in play all the time. Like we all have, no one's ever a sole connective tissue athlete or a muscular driven athlete. Everyone is using all systems all the time. But you need to understand what their driver is, and that's the difference between a defensive back and a linebacker in football. Obviously their genetics play a role in what position they're going to play. If you're a lean athlete and, you're not putting on muscle, you're a lean, fast twitch, and, you look at these guys, some of these guys, their calves are so thin. Why? Because their calf doesn't have a lot of muscle compared to a muscular calf. It's more tendon. The Achilles tendon is longer. It's comprised of more tendon tissue than muscle. But guess what? What stores that elastic energy? We're finding out now it's really the tendon and the connective tissue. And this is where the studies have really validated with kangaroos. They've looked at kangaroos and they've identified the muscle tissue in a kangaroo is similar to koala bears. It's the same type of muscle fibers. What's different is the tendons in kangaroo, how they store elastic energy. And we've proven that because research shows that kangaroos burn so many more calories walking compared to hopping. So they can cover a mile hopping so much faster and get there in a couple minutes and burn so much less energy than walking a mile. And that's because the connective tissue is non-caloric dependent. It's free energy. And we know this now. And believe it or not, Kenyan runners and even good world-class distance runners, they take advantage of this free energy on how they hit the ground. So it's not just explosive power, it's that elastic recoil and understanding that elastic recoil and how that amerization phase is really a unique phase, and timing that is really important, because if we try to be too fast off the ground when we sprint, we can disrupt that natural free energy and actually be slower. So ground contact time is important and we want to minimize it. But if we try to minimize it too much on with an athlete, like maybe there needs to be more time on the ground. Maybe we're rushing, that contact time. So, and again, to take advantage of this free energy and getting the full bounce, just like when we bounce a basketball, when you throw the ball on the ground, you're getting that energy, off the ground, and in our foot contacts, we want to make sure we analyze that. So this is really new cutting edge stuff where, we're kind of going deeper, like we're going deeper down the rabbit hole here, and really understanding that ground contact, that pulsing, and that ability at ground contact, how to create stiffness and become a pogo stick, and let the bottom of that pogo stick where the spring is, right? The whole pogo stick is strong and it's comprised of steel. When that bottom part of the pogo stick hits, if you have a really loose spring, a weak spring, not going to do too good. You want a really strong spring, and that's really the Achilles tendon and the connective tissue of the lower limb, but also the connective tissue of the whole body, the fascia, to create the whole body to really at that very millisecond of ground contact, to create your body to become a rod of steel, so we don't get too much yield, or we don't get too much or we don't leak energy, throughout the structure, right? We don't want to leak energy. We don't want to shoot a cannon out of a rowboat. We want to shoot a cannon off a block of cement, and we want to be that block of cement at point of contact. And as soon as contact is off, then obviously we need to, recover the limb and let the kinetic chain, let the kinematics and biomechanics do what they're supposed to do. And hopefully that, the fascia also has a lot of hyaluronic acid, so it's like sinewy and it glides and all those other things that take place in the stride cycle. So, that's really important to understand. But to kind of back up a little bit, so seeing these athletes, what they've done, how they explode, looking at this, and then that brought me into this world of fascia, and that brought me to want to understand fascia and how do you train fascia. And it's it's a newly discovered organ in the human body. It has 10 times more the proprioceptors than muscle. It's a trainable system. It's all these things. It's just as important as your muscular system. For some athletes, more important. I don't understand. I mean, listen, Kevin Durant, James Harden, they got hamstring issues. Like, hamstring issues are popping up, right? These are multi-million-dollar athletes, and I have a hypothesis on this. Research just came out in the Connect conference, and this is the top guys in the world. My good, someone that has become a friend of mine, Robert Schleip, who's a leading researcher in fascia, a German top researcher, has put out a study, and in his study, and he gave this presentation not too long ago, 88% of soft tissue injury are collagenous fiber injuries, white collagen tissue injuries, not the red muscle fiber. 88% are fascia related, which is endo, myosin, epi, perimyosin related. It's the connective tissue within the muscle that's damaged. And the strength training, the traditional strength training, this tissue isn't adapting as fast as the red muscle fiber to traditional strength training. So you need to do different types of training to address this collagenous tissue, this fascia, this collagen tissue. Collagen, like we're talking about, how do you train your collagen? We should come up with a new word, muscle training, right? We know that. How about collagen training? How do we enhance our collagen? And now it's such a big thing. People are drinking collagen. They're drinking bone broth and all these different things. Like, we get it, right? I mean, we see it. Our skin is collagen. It's all this stuff. We're skin. We want to make our skin look good. But how about that? How about those invaluable tissues that hold the hammy together, or the hip flexor or the groin, right? That's the stuff breaking down because it's not adapting to our traditional strength training. And what I found, and through my research with guys like Franz Bosch, I've been talking, went to his 4-day event and studied his stuff, his stuff, Dan Path, all these guys. And the thing that I'm excited about is that, guys, I kind of tell a lot of people, I'm not that bright of a guy. Like, you guys are probably all smarter than me. And I mean that humbly. I say that humbly. I've just been blessed to be in a seat to kind of, identify who the best in the world is. And like, I'm on this like attack to always, reach out to these guys, collaborate, and just bring information together. That's why I'm excited about the book coming out. I have a book coming out in September titled The Anatomy of Speed, with Human Kinetics as the publisher. And it's going to be insane. It's got so much stuff in here. I've interviewed eight guys, you know, did in-depth interviews on research and all the things I'm sharing. It's all in the book. It's going to be awesome. But understanding this stuff and looking at this stuff. So I give you my synopsis of all these people that I've talked to, went to their seminars, read, researched. And I'm realizing what's interesting is not many people truly understand fascia. And a lot of people I thought had a good handle on it didn't. There's a handful that do. And between the scientific guys, you know, the guys in the lab like a Robert Schleip, and then there's other guys like that are out in the field like a Dan Path or Franz Bosch or Michel Delcourt. They all have their views, and they might not all align with one another, meaning they have different views, and they actually, some of these guys conflict one another. Like, you know, but what I've done is I've taken all the views, and they all have something really invaluable to contribute. And then I've assembled my thoughts, and I've taken a conservative, and that's also Stuart McGill. So it's all these different guys, and I'm giving you a culmination of all their stuff. And I think what I've put together was the stuff that they're really, really confident in and have some valuable research to show that what they're sharing is true. And I've taken pieces from each guy, like they're real truisms, like they're real things that are almost non-negotiable. And I think I put together an interesting solution with that, along with my own experiences. And that is this: to train fascia. Oh, I'm going to pause right there, by the way. How am I doing? Am I on track? Is this good?
Yeah, good.
Yeah,
it's great.
Yeah, keep going.
All right. I just want to make sure, because I'm always trying to get a 10, right? A 10. I want you're the 10. The goal is to get a 10. And if I'm not getting a 10, raise your hand, press the button or something, and say, "Hey, can you go down? You're not hitting what I want you to hit." So, training fascia, right? When we think about training fascia, there's a lot of ways, strategies to train it. Like, how do you train this collagen, this connective tissue, right? So one way, and there's tools out there to train it. Like, there's different tools. One of the most dynamic tools that I really like, well, there's a couple. There's three main tools. Actually, there's probably 5. There's a lot, but I'm going to go over each one and how I use them, right? So the one tool is the Viper, right? So Michel Delcourt, the Viper tool, he's got hundreds, if not thousands, of movements that really is a staple, has become a staple in my training program. And basically that Viper is a 4 foot or so round, rubberized, hollow pipe, about 6 inches in diameter, 4 inches long. And it comes as light as 4 kilos, I think up to like 32 kilos, and all different weights. And holding that pipe in different angles and moving it and swinging it and doing different things is a great way to send stresses through the body. Isometric holds with it. It's a great way to simulate chores, farm boy chores. You know, that's a great tool. That's become a staple in my warm-ups with my athletes. And depending on the day, if I'm hitting core, I'll do a lot of Viper related stuff on those core days. That's a great tool. The other tool I've been using for years, I didn't even realize it was a fascia training tool, which is the oldest tool in the book, is a medicine ball. And when you think about medicine ball training and all the great things we can do with medicine balls, like when you think about medicine, you don't really build muscle using a medicine ball, right? I mean, you can just see it. And my whole life, throwing medicine balls, because I used to throw 10,000 medicine balls every winter as a college, Division I college javelin. That was my number. Had to hit 10,000, reps, over my 3-month cycle. That's a lot of reps, I used to, during winter break, I would drive up to my college and I would break in like Rudy. Remember Rudy? He broke in to go sleep in the thing. I did the exact same thing to get into Iona to work out and I used to use the exit lights were my light, inside the gym. I would be doing med balls and during Christmas break when the gym was closed.
How come Rocky didn't use a med ball, Bill?
What's that?
How come Rocky didn't use a med ball?
Actually, he did in Rocky
too.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, he did. You're right.
I'm an expert in Rocky.
Yeah.
I'm an expert. And he used it with the rotational throws, remember?
Yeah, that's right.
It was
that's
rotational
right.
With the one trainer, right? He was like this.
I do remember that now.
He was like this. And there was a point in the movie, he was like this, come on. He'll say that. He'll be like, come on. Yeah, I'm a Rocky freak. So, you don't really think that, I used to think med ball training, I'm getting my neuromuscular coordination dialed in, and I'm developing power through neuromuscular coordination. That was the purpose of the med ball. That's what I thought. Because I know I wasn't building muscle, but I'm building explosive power through neuromuscular coordination. Would most of you guys agree with that, or maybe thought that about med ball training? Right? And also create some strength and stiffness, rotational throws, or dynamic power, increasing power output by greater neuromuscular coordination and motor unit recruitment. Throwing a med ball, right? Wouldn't we all agree to that? I mean, give me a yes or no.
Yeah.
I mean that's what I thought, and that is true to a degree. But the other system that you're developing with med ball is you're creating, you're signaling the fibroblast cells, which are cells within the body that are literally spiders crawling around everywhere, that literally cast webs of collagen. And these fibroblast cells cast these webs of collagen based on the stresses we put on our body, or the lack of stresses we put on our body. So they'll cast webs of collagen and elastin. Elastin is a fiber more like bubble gum, and collagen is a stiffer fiber like a rubber band. So bubble gum is a little bit more, kind of just soft, right? And it has a mixture of these different forms of fibers, but these fibroblast cells will cast strands of collagen based on the stresses. So when you throw med balls, you're signaling these, or you do Viper and any types of fascia training, signaling these fibroblast cells to lay down more collagen. And what's interesting is Robert Schleip did an ultrasound study on Thomas Roller's right pec. Thomas Roller is a top 10 javelin thrower from Germany, and he noticed a 2 millimeter thickness aponeurosis on his right pec, a 2 millimeter thickness aponeurosis, a fascia pad basically on his right pec, nothing on his left because he's a right-handed javelin thrower, and it's the fascia that really helps facilitate that arm speed. So med balls and doing med balls, signaling the fibroblast cells to lay down this fascia web based on the motions, what we're doing. Because when we're doing a med ball throw, rotational throw, a slam, think about the stability you need to have to maximize that velocity of that med ball. Like, you have to create stability in the body. Think about what provides that stability. Well, it's neuromuscular contraction, like it's isometric contraction, but the fascia, the wrapping around all the muscles, is a big part of that stability. That's why farm boys are really strong. They've been doing chores their whole life. They've got much thicker layers of fascia. So med balls is another great tool to developing fascia. The ohm, which is an isokinetic modality. The ohm tool, which is a new technology, isokinetic has been around forever. And I think it's the most underutilized form of resistance. So we have isotonic, which is your traditional gravity-based weights. We have isometric, which is used to stimulate fascia and strength, especially with Viper. There's some isometric movements there. And we might do isometric holds under the squat bar, or, pinning ourselves in the bench press to gain, to try to work through those strength plateaus. And then we have isokinetic, same speed. So the resistance is going to be at the same speed, iso, right? Constant. And then kinetic, energy, right? So constant speed, and then the kinetic energy is actually gonna change, because if we're keeping the same speed, what's gonna change is the resistance behind that speed. So isokinetic, it's accommodating resistance. So when you use isokinetic, it's gonna, I can yank on something or put like 500 pounds of force into something and move it at 2 miles an hour, or I can put 10 pounds of force and move it at 2 miles an hour. That's the amazing thing about isokinetic. And on the Om Run, because it's omnidirectional, it's a resistance modality that I can use it in all different planes of motion. I have to stabilize my whole body to do almost every exercise. And to me, I found that being amazing, because to stabilize my body, my whole body, I've got to, I got to isometrically contract. A lot of things got to work. And that's where the fascia plays a really big role, because when you talk about stability, creating stability, the fascia plays a much bigger role than we ever anticipated. It's not just neuromuscular firing to create stiffness. The fascia, because it has 10 times the proprioceptors in muscle, there's a lot of signaling going on. There's a lot of isometric contraction taking place. The fascia plays a role in that stability, in the muscles gliding, all these different things that have to happen to create, great force and great athleticism. So the Om isokinetic piece is a big piece in what we're doing. There's another, there's a couple other things I wanted to share, and why did it slip my mind? So those three right there are definitely the big three in terms of movements and fascia training. The other thing that's really big in training fascia, and I got more of this stuff from Bosch, is perturbation training. So perturbation training is really, really interesting. And what do I mean by perturbation training? Is that I should have sent you guys a video. Let me see if I can pull this off. I think I have a video here. I got to give you guys a little. Hang on, give me 1 second. If I can put this up on the screen, it would be kind of cool. I definitely have a video. It's just in here. I'm sorry. I need 10 more seconds. 9, 8, 7, 6. All right. Here we go.
Bill, while you're looking for that, somebody put in the chat said, can fascia training prevent or reduce injuries? I can just speak firsthand for myself. I'm still trying to be an athlete. I'm a marathoner. I spent 2020 with Achilles tendon, like almost Achilles tendonitis. It was really weird, but basically couldn't walk anymore. Where I was on a run, I literally had my husband go get the truck. Like I couldn't step another step, and fought through it. And then I went to a local physical therapist who does fascial release, etc. And when she looked at me, didn't even look at my ankle first. She asked what other injuries I had and looked at other postures. She worked on my neck and this shoulder, and then she worked on my ankle, did some lymphatic drainage taping, and then did some stretching, which was the most uncomfortable burning fire of my entire life.
Yep.
And I walked out of there without a limp after limping for almost a year. And I'm back to marathon training, and I call her the voodoo priestess, and I see her regularly, and the only thing she does is check for fascial tension through my body. So I'm a firm believer in it, and it's keeping me running at my age and still doing well. So it's good stuff.
Yeah. So here's an example of some perturbation training. Can you guys see that?
Lift a little higher. There you go.
Let me get started from the beginning. Yeah.
Has Bill got access to the Facebook group, Casey? Yeah, and you can always send that video to me too, Bill, and I can
Yeah,
post it
you
as
know
well.
what? I'll put it on. And basically, what it is, I mean, we have perturbation training. I'll send a couple videos. Is like we use aqua bags. You know, we'll do different aqua bag stuff. We'll hang weights off a bar with rubber rubber bands, and they'll be dangling like with hanging off the bar, and it creates a tremendous amount of instability, crazy amounts of so it's like perturbations. It's just like constant little vibrations taking place, and between the water and the aqua bags and the hanging plates, and I'll send these videos to Kate. I have them all on my phone. I just need 5 minutes to really focus and find them all. And so that's another great tool. And here's my theory around this. I've been experimenting with this. It's been really unbelievable. And I think, but this is stuff, it's really interesting because the different trains of thought, you need a foundation though, before you get into this perturbation. You need a foundation. So, you know, you got to be really careful with, you know, younger athletes. You don't want to start doing this with younger kids. You need I believe you need a foundation of squat strength. You need a foundation, and then they grow into this higher level training, which is perturbation training. But you need your traditional, you know, base strength. The challenge is, I think, in our society of strength coaches, is we've taken the foundational training, squat and dead, and that sagittal plane world, you know, way too far. Like that cycle of training is like people are taking that through high school, college, and pros, right? I mean, like it's almost like that's everything, right? And I think we got to be careful with that. Like I don't think, you know, JJ Watt needs more strength, right? I think he's strong enough. I think guys like that, you know, I think you look at like someone like Saquon Barkley, right? Before he got injured, he started saying, "Hey, man, I'm going to do more med ball training. I'm going to be doing." And I just read this just like anybody else. But you can see some of the guys starting to kind of understand that we have to change the modalities here. So perturbation training, whether it be with aqua bags or whether it be with unstable surfaces, with weights hanging off the bar, what I believe is happening in the perturbations, the proprioceptive environment is so rich when you use these modalities. It's so rich. And there's so many things that really have to take place in terms of the firing and the stability, that the fascia has to activate. Like it has to take place. So there's an exercise, and I'll find it. It's a hamstring exercise. It's an isometric hamstring exercise where you're in that ultimate position, that bottom position. And it's a single leg bottom position of the God, I just went brain dead. The hamstring movement.
Nordics.
Nordics. Why did I go and brain dead with Nordics?
You had me at this. I knew exactly what you were
Yeah. My mind. I'm thinking so many things right now. Like I have so many things to share. Like it's all just. I just crashed. My computer, my brain just crashed. I have to reboot. You know, I get all fired up. So it's almost like it's a bottom position of the Nordics, but the pad is right at the ASIS, where the fulcrum is. So the Nordics is off the knee. This is different, but the position ASIS is the pad. And I'll send this to you. And one foot is under a bar, and you have an aqua bag, and you're in isometric contraction, and you're face down. You're prone, right? But you're off the ground because you're on a bench. And you're shaking the aqua bag back and forth, and you're sending perturbations through the isometrically contracted hammy. And those perturbations going through that isometrically highly contracted at high levels of contraction, single leg holds in that Nordic type position, but the fulcrum's a little different, not off the knee, it's off the hip, but same concept with the perturbations going through this isometric is signaling, in my opinion, not just the muscle to be strong and whole, but the connective tissues because of the perturbations, right? And we know, and that's where this perturbation stuff comes in. You don't need a lot of weight. Like we'll do single leg squats or single leg lunges with a lot lower weight, but with the hanging weights with bands, it's so much more difficult, and the proprioceptive environment is insane. And I believe it's signaling the fascia to help facilitate, these co-contractions. And really, I should say it's signaling, maybe not, let me take that back, because I think I'm reaching a little bit too much with some of these statements. And again, this is my theory. It's signaling the fibroblast cells to lay down more collagen based on this super high rich proprioceptive environment, and how we have to stabilize so much stabilization taking place. And it's signaling the fibroblast cells to lay down more collagen because it senses a completely unstable environment. So what does the body want to do when it senses in tremendous instability, right? Like what does your body do when you're walking on a sheet of ice? It gets
Tense
stiff.
up.
It tenses
Create
up,
tension.
right? Creates tension. And to me, that's the breakthrough with this perturbation training, and to create stability and stiffness, signaling the fibroblast cells to create a more dynamic and thicker epi, perio, and endomyosin, which needs to be stronger. See, to me, guys, that's really cutting edge. Like, how do we train our epi and endo and perimyosin? Right? Because that's the stuff getting injured. Like, that's the stuff that's breaking down. That's the collagen. It's amazing how, you know, a lot of like high level people aren't familiar with this stuff, you know, and maybe because it's brand new, and I think that's what this mentorship is about. Like, we're bringing some really great stuff. I don't know if I read anywhere how to train your epi and peri and endomyosin, right? I don't even think we talk about that much, but that's the stuff that's going to give that muscle more structural integrity. And that's the stuff really breaking down in these soft tissue injuries, right? Because the best ability is availability, right? That's huge.
Hey, Bill,
Yeah.
Diane had a really good question, and I think this is a kind of a question we always kind of get to here in training. Look, and Diane, I apologize if this isn't as specific, but hopefully it kind of encompasses what you asked. Where does fascial training start with athletes, right? Like, we've talked in the past where with our younger developing athletes, it's everything from an active dynamic warm up to medicine ball work and things like that. But for like the exercises you just laid out, knowing that athletes have to have a base of strength, how do you start to implement this stuff? Like, is it as simple as like, okay, once they check the box on strength training, like we can start to really look at like these more dynamic holds and perturbations, or is it starting with isometrics? Is it all of it? Can you go wrong? I don't know.
Yeah, that's a great question. I really think it starts with isometrics. And I think, I think things like, just like wall sits and basic fun stuff, med ball holds, and even light med ball throws, like getting these athletes to learn to throw things, planks.
Create tension, getting athletes to create tension.
Just different tensions and different planes of motion, right? Using different tools. It could be a dumbbell, it could be a kettlebell, it could be a med ball, isometric holds in all different planes of motion. Be creative, as long as they're in a sound position where they're not in a risk with the weight being too heavy to hold, a position that's not causing tear in the connective tissue. So in other words, a flex spine under load is going to delaminate that annulus fibrosis. It's going to delaminate the disc. If you are under load with a flex lumbar spine, you're slowly making micro tears on an area you don't want to be doing. As long as we're not doing that type of stuff, and the load has to be appropriate in different directions. Isometric holds for these kids, be creative, all different angles, and all different types of med ball throws is a great way to start. And I like using that in the warm up. I think it's a great way to extend your warm up, and your warm up bleeds into your workout. I mean, with the Parisi system, our warm up really is our the beginning of our workout, and we bleed into the session of the day, whether it be a linear day or a multi-directional speed day or a strength day. We'll do different warm ups and incorporate these things in the warm up, and bleed that warm up into the workout, and then we'll move into what we call anchoring drills, and then obviously go into the actual application of the movement we're trying to perfect that day. So answer your question, lots of isometrics, and then med balls. I think the perturbation stuff, to me, my personal experience, you want to have a little bit of a foundation before you start doing perturbation stuff, because I think it'd be way too risky. And I'm noticing that, with the kids I'm training, you got to have a foundation. You don't want to do some of this higher level stuff without a foundation of strength. And according to Dr. Bill Kramer, who I respect tremendously, also I quoted in my book, he's done a lot of research. He's written 12 books on strength training. He says to optimize speed, his research shows it's 2 times body weight on the squat. You don't need more than that, but you need that. You need 2 times body weight on the squat. So if you're 175, you need a 350 squat to optimize your speed. Now, there's a lot of other things you need to do behind that. And he was really intrigued when I spoke to him about the connective tissue system and where that plays a role. But once you get to 2 times body weight, you're probably better off spending your time doing other things, opposed to trying to get a higher squat. Do things to maintain that squat. And the things we're doing, what's interesting, I'm noticing my athletes are maintaining their squat strength doing these other forms of training, these perturbation training techniques. So hopefully, Casey, that answers your question.
Yeah, we went down, I won't say a rabbit hole, but we were talking about positional isometrics as it related to like the wall drive and linear speed and things like that. And it is interesting to see how a lot of it can layer in really well into a session, right? Like if you're doing an isometric wall drive, you're going to get a lot more out of it than just teaching a kid locomotion or teaching a kid, shin recovery or something like that. Like you're going to get some strength benefits behind it and a lot of other good things. And it's I think sometimes, with strength coaches, we get very analytical about the X's and O's because that's what we like. That's what we want to learn more about. And when it boils down to our athletes and working with them, like the simplest things yield the best results, especially with younger kids, like, isometrics and things like that's almost how kids should probably start strength training. Right. And I think, Diane, that's what you just hit in the chat is like isometric loads with just their body weight are probably the best introductory to strength and the safest on a bunch of other different benefits and things like that. Like it seems so simple, almost too simple, right? And we're like, wait, that can't be that. It can't be that easy.
Yeah. I just noticed I pulled up all the chat. That's great. So I got, so to answer quick, on fascia training, prevent or reduce it, without a doubt. I mean, I think it's the number one, fascia training is number one way to prevent injuries. No doubt. The things I just shared, the Viper, the Ohm, the med ball, and the perturbation training, the Aqua Bag training. I'll send you some of these videos, especially the perturbation training. How much do you build it into the program and where? Great. I like the foundational, the warm-up stuff. I like Viper in the warm-up and I'll focus on that, but I'll also use Viper as part of my core training on core training days to really drive that home. I'll also use Viper on some of my power days when I'm going to do more explosiveness. We'll do jumping with the Viper. So, like when you talk about a resisted jump, like I believe in resisted jumping. Vertimax is, I believe in Vertimax, right? But here's the difference. The Vertimax is a great tool to just rip into it in a very safe environment because the resistance is around the waist and you can really rip in. How about doing a vertical jump with this log you're holding out here and you're bringing it between your legs and using it and jumping up vertically? Now that force is going all through your shoulders, your spine. It's a different dynamic, right? So we'll do piston jumps with the Viper, right, for a power movement, right? Or we'll do speed skaters with a Viper, an external load with the muscles at length. So it's a different signaling, right? So we'll incorporate, say, tools like that, into a power day or a med ball too, like an acceleration, like a broad jump chest pass, into an acceleration power day, right? A broad jump, same concept with using these tools. The perturbation stuff, we got a question we'll use in the strength days. Andreas, did I say that right?
Idris, no, it was perfect. I was just I've been making notes on everything. You mentioned before, I appreciate you've just gone through everything and such. It's a 10. It's a 10 for me, Bill. Always. You've just to sort of go back. You said you had five strategies or 5 methods for sort of fascia training and trying to sort of improve performance with yourselves in terms of the school and what you've done in terms of the research and going elsewhere. You had number 1, which was the Viper tool. I don't know if the Vertimax is within that as well. Then number 2 was the medicine ball throw. Number 3 was the isokinetic sort of training that you can have, and number 4, the perturbation stuff, which is really interesting. I do a few stuff with the TRX and the suspension training that you can do with sort of the unstable kind of surfaces. And then you said 5, so I know we're getting close to sort of time. I don't know if there's a 5th one that you.
The other one was Aqua Bag Training.
Okay, cool.
Aqua Bag Training, and there's a great product. Let me there's another great product. So I really believe in the Ohm Run. I mean, there's you can get Aqua Bags on Amazon. There's a good one, but I think the other one that I really like, they're a little bit more expensive. I'm looking it up now. That I really like a lot is it's called, oh God, I'm having problems with my phone today, but I know I have it right here. Here we go. I always forget this name. The company's name is Ultimate Stability. Ultimate Stability is a bad source of protein. Yeah. They have some great aqua bags, in terms of you can harness on your back and things like that. So those, to me, those are the 5 kind of staples in terms of not just fascia training. It's obviously stability training, but when you talk about stability, a big part of creating stability is with the help of fascia and what else? Neuromuscular coordination. I mean, that's stability, right? The firing to create isometric contraction, to create stability around the joint, neuromuscular coordination, and this wrapping, this cellophane wrapping around muscle that does something. Now, I don't know exactly how it works or what it does, but I'm a big believer that it facilitates stability, So I don't know if that's like absolutely 100% proven yet, but it makes common sense because, like, we know the muscles and nerves and organs are wrapped in this stuff. I believe it's really plays a huge role in creating stability. And the more we have of it that works with us and not against us, and the more it's managed properly through creating hyaluronic acid so it can glide and slide and all these different things, the more we can manage it and train it correctly, the better off we're going to be. Let me just read some more here. Does the collagen matrix need to be remodeled as it does in skeleton? Yeah, that's exactly what we're doing. We are helping to remodel the collagen matrix for sure. Would you say there's an argument to be made that this could be a starting point? I don't understand a starting point in what. I think I think we are starting to understand this, and you guys being part of this mentorship are on the cutting edge, and this is a starting point. I mean, you guys are definitely on the cutting edge, and how much of an effect does collagen supplements have? That's a great question. And there's a great professor out of the University of California, Berkeley. I got to remember his name, David. It'll come to me. That has done a lot of work on nutrition and collagen. I'll add that to the chat or give it to Casey. I gotta find his name, but I believe there is more and more research out there with supplementation of collagen. And the easiest thing is Jello. Gelatin. I mean, just simple having some Jello every day has shown, and that's what these guys are saying. These high level experts in terms of nutrition and collagen. That's all collagen. So, but I know we're just about out of time here. We got about another minute or two. Hopefully this was helpful, guys, and you got something out of it. I really appreciate it. Casey, I don't know if you want